I've been on safari in South Africa in a Mercedes Maybach G-Wagon, the Landaulet G-Wagon thing they made,
unbelievable.
$1 million thing, filming lions out the back with a champagne bottle.
Oh, that
makes no sense at all.
Can I come on that one next time? That's right up my street.
Welcome back to part 2 of my interview with the awesome Tim Burton, aka Shmee150.
And a big step forward in 2014 was when I purchased a McLaren 12C.
So that's a big punt, really.
Oh, yes.
But you're kind of going, right, I'm going to invest, but obviously finance.
So I was very aware that I was, I put all of my capital into the deposit. I was probably spending £1,000 a month on the car and obviously living in a rented flat in London.
Yeah.
So pretty much everything of that couple of thousand I was making a month was going straight out. Straight out.
You didn't eat. You just
certainly didn't eat in the way you expect a McLaren owner would eat.
Yeah. Okay.
let's put it that way. So it was definitely, I want to make this work and taking a risk. And it's funny looking back because I question what made me think that was a good idea
But
at
it's
the time.
brilliant.
But it kind of worked. It didn't exist.
Brilliant.
And also McLaren was very interesting because it was a very new company. The 12Cs had only started being delivered a year or so before. So there was very little content about the brand, about the cars.
Yeah.
It was seen, I think, in the early days as the anti-Ferrari, different approach, different way of doing things. But people wanted to know what that was like. So it turned out to be a very positive move on my behalf.
Yeah.
I made that decision, and I bought a car that was a year old and had already suffered a 6-figure depreciation hit.
Yes.
And I did actually sell it a year later for more than I bought it for. So things turned out
That's
quite
good.
well on that front.
Yes. Every cloud.
Yes.
But what foresight that, but it kind of makes total sense that you want to see, someone pulling off very quickly in a brand new McLaren. You want to see, how everything works inside, all these things that people are very interested in seeing.
And I would make videos literally like that, a point of view drive, strap a camera to the side of my head and show just taking it for a drive down a country lane or going on a road trip, going to the Nürburgring for the first time, for example. What's that experience like?
Yes.
And I had an amazing amount of fun filming the videos. So this is partly having, I suppose technically I'd step back my career from a job where I was aware if I stayed in the role that I was in, fast forward another 5 or 10 years, certainly it would be a very hard-working career. It was already very hard-working, but it would have hopefully led to being quite successful. So it was definitely, taking a risk of a notch back in doing this, but it was so much fun to do it.
Absolutely.
Both to experience a car like that. I dreamt as a teenager that one day I might own a supercar. That was like, it's got to happen.
Yes.
One of my cousins had bought a Ferrari and driven it on the Gumball when I was still at school. So I was like, I got to do that one day. It's got to happen.
It's special. I remember getting my first Murcielago and went and did the Gumball. And it's quite a moment where you just go, tick.
Yes.
Yes.
Like I spent the last 10 years dreaming of doing this, so it's got to happen.
It's amazing.
But like I say, it was very flat for a year. And I remember...
So you didn't see growth? You didn't see with all of...
No, even though I had a lot more time available. I mean, I had come into this off the back of a couple of big virals before. So before I'd actually left my job, like I said, I'd bought the 12C. I'd had a couple of very big videos in the early part of that year. So I went into going full-time, but having had unusual success in the months that preceded it.
Right.
So when things returned to normality, all of a sudden it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to start burning through my backup resources now.
Did it make you wobbly? Did you go, oh
Big
my
time.
God, I've made a massive mistake?
I remember it, come Christmas at the end of that year, but going home to my family, I remember sitting there and talking to my parents and being like, do you think it's time I need to apply for a job again? And try to get back on the employment ladder. And I suppose, as luck would have it, again, fast forward 2 or 3 months, hadn't yet got round to applying for anything, but it was really then an uphill kind of take off in early 2015.
And was it a particular video? Was it the McLaren still? Was it?
So I changed my 12C to a 650S, which was part of it. Had a very big viral video that Christmas unwrapping it. It was wrapped up in wrapping paper 8 years ago. I've done it a few times since.
Yeah.
but that was the first one I did. And then I just got into the routine of knowing more about the algorithm side, more about what I needed to do, how to make it successful. So 2015 was really the year when that started happening to a much bigger degree. Things like going to motor shows and making sure I had everything set so that I could film something and get it out straight away.
Right.
I'd always been very on it with that, but I was really, really up to the pace with it by this point. the interest in social media and YouTube in general grew big time at that period as well. And one of the biggest shifts that I made was moving from shorter videos towards more longer, involving myself in the content. So I had done some videos before where I'd presented to camera, but I'd never made it so much the vlog style that we know now.
Yes.
And that was one of the big shifts that year, away from kind of 5 minutes with a quick intro and outro into more a 10-minute video where it would be, hey, come along with me for this experience. And
More kind of the
narrating.
selfie one.
And that created massively higher levels of engagement with the viewers.
Yeah.
And I've always been very statistics driven when it comes to all of this. I guess taking that mindset of the consultancy world where it was spreadsheets all day, every day, and writing VBA scripts for this, that, and the other. And it was exactly the same for YouTube. I would study analytics for hours and hours on end.
Right.
Every morning, first thing I do is straight to the YouTube stats for each of my channels.
Amazing. And so you would kind of know each minute
I
what
would
people are
spot
switching on,
trends.
switching off, trends.
It was about spotting something. It was about spotting a change to maybe the algorithm or spotting a change in user behavior that you could then respond to and try and get involved with or latch onto before other people did.
Yeah.
Because that was always the trick. You know, at the end of the day, you want your content to be promoted. You want your content to be pushed out to the viewer, right? So to do that means coming up with the best plans for every element of the video. You know, how does it start? What's the branding? What will keep somebody coming back? What's going to be the next story? How do you actually present the video to the viewer in terms of titles, thumbnails? There are so many elements of it that people don't necessarily think about.
Yeah.
It's not, like I say, it's not about being the most creative person in the world all the time. Obviously, you do need to be creative to have ideas for what you're going to shoot, but there's also a very big
there's an art.
business part of it.
There's a real art of understanding it, and you know all the analysis of it and all of the algorithms. It's it is. It's taken me by surprise.
Yeah, but I really enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
something I absolutely love. I feel like when I spot something that I think I can do better with my videos, or better from a YouTube perspective, or obviously now Instagram and TikTok and Facebook videos and so many platforms, it gets confusing. But if I find something, it's like I get so excited about it. Even now, it's like, oh my gosh, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, I can do it like that.
Yeah.
That will work better. And it's constantly changing. There are always new things. There are always new things to learn. I mean, even over the last couple of days, I've done a couple of changes to the way we're doing things. And it's, I think that will go on forever, because as soon as something becomes the norm, you then need the new thing to feel fresh.
Yes.
To be to stand out.
Always evolving.
And obviously for this whole, I guess, last 8 years now, that's been an evolution. From that point when everything started picking up, I've devoted more time to it. I've actually been working with a chap called Mark, who's been kind of the business manager of Shmee150 since, I want to say 2013, and he's been hugely important in the growth of everything as well, which people don't necessarily see, partly because I don't show it, but one of the reasons I don't show it is because one of the beauties of doing this is that it looks so easy. Like if I shared that I was up until 3:30 last night doing account stuff, people would suddenly get very disenchanted with the idea of all of this.
Maybe that's
not so much fun. But Mark had a journalistic background, so that was the introduction to all the manufacturers, the brands, to get the opportunity to see cars, to get press passes to things, and to eventually start going on press launches. So this is before magazines had yet picked up cameras to film test drives, or maybe they were, but they weren't really putting them anywhere.
Yeah.
Focusing
or they
on
had a
filming
delay.
it. Yes.
Because they were either taking them off or doing the drives, doing the picture, and then there was a delay where suddenly everything is instant now.
Yeah, and I've been really at the, I think, forefront of sharing things instantly, even from the very beginning. Even I remember when the Gumball started in London in 2010, so the first year I'd been making videos, any car would arrive at the hotel for registration, and my video of that car would be on the internet by that night. It's like, it was done. And then when it started to be new releases at the Geneva Motor Show, so when the McLaren P1 launched, the Ferrari LaFerrari launched, even then, and it was short videos, so it was easily done, I would be waiting there for 2 hours before. I would have my laptop set up with somebody else in a hotel around the corner somewhere. I would film the video, and then I would sprint across the hall. The number of people who tell me now that they saw me running across motor show halls, I would sprint.
I got it first.
Yes, edit the video, have it good to go, have all the copy pre-written, boom, off it goes to the internet. And things like, I remember the LaFerrari video, this is kind of one of the moments I look back on. I had my video of Di Montezemolo revealing the LaFerrari at the Geneva Motor Show, standing further back because the queues were huge, and my camera's up in the air somewhere.
You needed me.
My video of that launch was on YouTube before Ferrari had even published their own pre-filmed video of the car. So for that day, if you search for LaFerrari in reverse order, the first ever video on YouTube of a LaFerrari was my video.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I think that, that didn't just happen. It took a lot of preparation to do that.
Yes.
But it kind of summarizes how much went into the planning of this that people have never seen from the past.
Yeah.
And the same happened when Bugatti revealed the La Voiture Noire, the world's most expensive car.
Yes.
16.72 million euros. I'd heard it was going to be coming. I'd heard the car was coming, and I knew it was going to make the
first
world
one to arrive in the UK?
No, at the motor show, when they unveiled it to the world. There's only one of them in the world.
Okay.
So I'd heard this car was going to be there, and again, I planned obsessively to make sure that I knew everything about it, when it was going to be there, how to get the video, have everything set up. Like, I'd paid a premium for the closest possible room that I could have to the motor show to make sure that I could get this out. And it worked. The video has 9 million views. It went
amazing.
Super viral.
But your dedication is something that you can just see throughout the whole thing, and also your knowledge and what you've learnt and the way that you talk to your audience. You never do it you do it in such an interesting way. You have a very lovely art of taking the viewer with you, but you can see that passion. You can see you've learnt everything, and that's, I think, why you've been such a huge, ginormous success.
Well, I think it's very important that you enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a passion for this, you'd see that in the videos.
Oh God. Yeah.
You have to be
this
able
lot,
to.
Far too clever.
You have to be able to. You have to be able to have it organically, and love what you're doing, because otherwise you wouldn't have the persistence to keep going. Over the now effectively 13 years since I uploaded my first car video on YouTube, I've done a video more than one per day.
I've got that.
Which
Over 5,000 videos,
Yeah.
which is literally a video a day for almost 12 years.
Now it's about to be 13. So if you think about that, the longest break I've ever had was like 3 days maybe of videos in that whole time. And sometimes, of course, I've pre-filmed some videos, so I've been able to take a little bit longer off for Christmas or whatever it might be. But effectively, it's always on for the whole time. I've never taken like a month off, or I've never said, I need 2 weeks now, or I enjoy all of the things I get to do. I get to travel to some unbelievable places, to see so much of the world, to meet some unbelievable people, and whether that's, car collectors or CEOs of car companies or engineers, designers, or people who have the passion and have done things like I have. And I can't believe, that I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. And it's one of the things that gets me up every morning and says, yes, I'm going to go and do this. Yeah. There's an opportunity today. I'm off, whatever it is, however tired I am, and however much sometimes my family and my girlfriend might not appreciate it.
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm off, I'm going.
It's such a buzz. And then just how incredible it is that I found out that you're almost up to 1 billion views.
Yeah, which is really, it's crazy to think about. I mean, the native English-speaking population of the world is about 500 million people, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Of course, many people speak it as a second language, so to have kind of doubled that number is absolutely crazy.
Mind-blowing.
This is the long-form YouTube videos, because we live in a new world now with short-form content, and we do, across the different platforms, 100 million views a month now on the short-form stuff. So 1 billion doesn't mean, I think, the same that it did even a year or two ago.
Got it.
But the reality is, 1 billion views of people watching on average for 10 minutes or something. It's a crazy amount of time.
It's kind of unfathomable, really. It's just like...
It's not like a country, it's a continent.
Absolutely.
It's a lot. It's a big old number.
But that would just get you up. That passion, the people that follow you, the people that love listening to you.
I get sent so many amazing stories from people who have been inspired by things, or who have been following the content and made a decision in their lives that's transformed things for them. And it's so warming to read some of those stories and to see, how somebody could have been in a hard time or struggling with some difficulties or health or something. And a positive enthusiasm for a passionate topic has been something that's helped them get through that. And, it's an impossible thing to really quantify, to say, hey, what this is about, but it's so warming to be able to do that,
isn't it?
To be part of that, and to hopefully encourage people in the future to be as into these things
I mean, it's
as
just,
I am as well.
you really have, and that's why I really wanted to sit down and talk to you, because I think you've done it in the most eloquent, lovely, positive, good way. That you're such an amazing role model. When I've got a little 11-year-old boy, and so when I told him I was interviewing you, he was like, oh. I mean, between you and Mr. Beast, it's he was begging to come up. I was like, oh God, but he had to do something today. But he was like, please, can I come up? I have to bring him up to the museum another time. But you've got this amazing following, and that's all, you know, your passion, your dedication. And I find there's a huge amount of kindness through your films. You know, you're not trying to show off, you're not trying to do, which I'm not saying some other YouTubers do, but you know, it's not condescending, it's just fully knowledgeable, really interesting, and it's fantastic. So, I mean, I suppose going from that, the question is, where next?
It's a very difficult question. You know, I always try, like I said, to do things I enjoy. That's number one for me. I have to enjoy this content. Of course, I've got other business ventures and things that are growing in the background.
Yes.
I spend a lot of time learning, obviously, about the cars. It doesn't just come overnight.
No, it's
I spent
a fountain
hours,
of knowledge.
Yes, I spent hours reading. People, you know, I prefer to read about a new car that's been launched and read through the press release that's 30 pages long than I do to read a book, for example. For me, that's something I love, and I love taking in the info and the details. And because I get to meet so many of the engineers and designers, it's easier to take in information about cars, for sure, because I understand why it is, and not just seeing the end product, which is what I always try and translate into the video, as you say. It's about, I always imagine that the person on the other side of the camera is my friend and I'm showing them something. So I'm really excited because I'm showing them about it. And that's, I think, the goal. And, you know, I guess it's super cool to have millions of friends who are watching through
You're very
video.
popular.
Can't keep up with everyone's birthdays. There must be a fair few thousand a day, but I try. So I think the future is to obviously evolve with the social media platforms. At the moment, we're in a very transitional period towards shorter form content. So now the videos per day thing.
Circle,
well, I upload a full length video every day and a short form video every day on everywhere. People are expecting to have too much that they can't watch it all.
Yeah.
You know, I know people can't watch 2 or 3 hours of videos I upload every week. Let's be real. It's you have to be really into it to watch everything. And anybody who does, I hugely appreciate. Thank you so much. But it's really a case of just seeing where it goes. You know, for now, I feel that my career has gone beyond where I ever hoped or dreamt it could have done. You know, the experiences I've had in that 13-year career of YouTube videos are more than I probably could have dreamt about doing in my life, and it's happened that fast. You know, some of the highlight moments I just look back at and I go, did that really happen? How did that happen? And it's like a list of them.
Is it? There's not one particular one that's like...
I have a personal favorite moment. I found myself at the wheel of a Mercedes CLK GTR at the Bahrain International Circuit, giving chase to the owner in his McLaren F1 with another friend driving his 911 GT1. And I felt like I was straight out of the mid-90s in priceless,
that's pretty
super rare hypercars.
Pretty cool.
Up towards the top end of fifth gear down the straight, and I'm like, this is not normal life.
It's a nice convoy.
Yeah. It started coincidentally because he said, if you can get in it, you can drive it. Because it's the CLK GTR has a huge car, but tiny, awkward window. So I was in. It took 5 seconds. Boom. I was in, and then I had to get out to get my cameras.
No, you jumped in too soon.
But you know, I've been on safari in South Africa in a Mercedes Maybach G-Wagon, the Landaulet G-Wagon thing they made,
unbelievable.
$1 million thing, filming lions out the back with a champagne bottle.
Oh, that's
makes no sense
Can
at
I
all.
come on that one next time? That's right up my street.
Or down the Autobahn in a Bugatti Chiron with Andy Wallace.
Oh, we love Andy.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy.
And we love that car.
To me, I just, you know, when I sit back often and say, how did that happen? You know, I was filming recently the new Pagani Utopia. Yeah. You know, the third Pagani model, hugely significant car when a brand like Pagani introduces a new model. It happens once a decade. Yeah. And you know, I'm obviously aware that I'm basically the only person filming it before it's been revealed, so I'm nervous about being there. But you know, I sit down and have a chit chat with Horacio Pagani about the car. You know, he's just come in from his morning cycle, and we're just sitting there talking. And I go away afterwards, and I'm like,
Oh, did that really happen?
Like, how am I here?
Yeah.
How am I,
It's
and giving
amazing.
my feedback on the car and my thoughts and opinions about it? Like, it's almost unbelievable that he's interested in my perspective on this.
Yeah, of course. Well, I suppose you might have even driven every single supercar, hypercar there is. You're probably the best person to talk to.
I actually think, and it's probably a weird thing for me to say myself, I don't think there's another person on the planet who's driven a wider variety of hypercars than I have.
Well, there you go.
Which is crazy, because I've driven every different derivative that Bugatti or Koenigsegg or Pagani or whoever make, apart from the brand new things, obviously. Well, even those, I was the first person outside of Mercedes or their customers to drive the AMG 1. And it's kind of crazy to me that, again, how is that possible? But it's fascinating to have this kind of insight. And obviously I target towards the supercar and luxury end of the spectrum. So if somebody asks me, should they buy this Hyundai or Honda, that's not my forte. But if it comes to a question about a very specific detail, I'll get occasional messages from friends or other content creators saying, hey, in this car, what does that switch do?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah, you got
or
it.
send them a voice note explaining the details. Those things I can tell you everything about. And I think one of the really cool things about the content, and this probably ties a bit to what you were saying, is for me it's always been about the car. It's about the car or the person I'm visiting or that collection or that event or that road. It's obviously me sharing my take on it and my experience of it and my story of it, but I'm secondary to the subject. It's not about me. It's not about me personally. And the way that obviously creates this, I think, feeling for the viewer has been very important to everything all the way through. And hopefully that's always going to be the case. But because it's in cars, there are always new things. There are always new things coming along. There are always new cars being released, new events that take place. Of course, there are only a finite number of racetracks, more built, but you can't go to everywhere always for a first time. But there are always new combinations. There are always new stories. There are always new things to share. There are always going to be new collectors. There are always going to be new projects that people have done with their cars. And that makes it quite easy to, I suppose, keep content coming, to keep going for a long time.
Apart from cloning yourself. To keep
well, some people are adamant that there are more than one of me to be able to do this, because I'll go from the US and then I'll pop up in London for a day and then I'll be in Dubai. And then
they're like,
what? How did you do that? I've actually just had one of those trips, because one of my cars is currently in the United States and I've just done a big tour across the whole country. And I went straight from there via London to take delivery of a car that I'd just shipped from the US to then go to Dubai for Gumball 3000.
This was last week?
A couple of weeks ago, and then back to London for another 2 days before going back out to California to keep going with the GT Black Series tour. And you see on the videos, and it's like, how?
Where is he now? This is ridiculous.
A lot of time on aeroplanes and a lot of air miles.
Yeah, I bet.
But hey, I enjoy the traveling. That's also a part of it. I think ultimately for me, this job brings together a number of different things I love. It's the cars for sure, but it's not just the cars. It's also the technology, the cameras, social media, and the travel, going to so many different places. I just love hopping on a plane and going somewhere that I haven't been, and just arriving and being like, I've seen so many pictures and videos of this place, and now here I am.
It's a wonderful thing to travel.
Yeah,
and to see the world. Yeah.
By meeting so many car collectors around the world as well, you also understand different sections even of this industry, different things, different cultures. By hopping off a plane and going to film with somebody in Oman is very different to California.
Yes.
It's to see those different cultures is one of the most
But one thing
amazing
unites
things.
us all.
Yeah, exactly. One thing unites all of us.
It's amazing. Honestly, I think you're just truly fantastic, and I could talk to you forever and ever and ever. Honestly, you're such a wonderful fountain of knowledge and just such an inspiration. And just thank you so much for talking to me. But it's not going to finish there, because we are in your, and I always get this wrong, museum. Shmuseum.
I didn't help the world by coming up with a really hard word to say.
Shmuseum. Yeah, it's kind of, after a couple of champagnes, I'll see how I get on. But so we're going to do that in another episode. We're going to have a little walk round, because you can probably see there's some beauties behind us. But thank you for having this incredible chat. I think you're awesome, and I can't wait to see what the future becomes of Shmee150, and I'm sure it's going to be bright and wonderful, and I hope to cross paths with you many times.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Thank
you
you.
for coming.
Thank you, thank you. Sorry.